And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JV and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. That's free. Download it into your phone, and you can watch and listen to our program daily in its entirety. Also, head to jbandgoldwatershow.com. If you're watching, look to the right of your screen. That's Darren Goldwater. To the left, that's me, and I realize I haven't taken my beanie off, or whatever you want to call this.
Your winter attire.
Yeah, it just hit me.
He walks in today. I'm like, dude, you're dressed for winter.
I just looked at myself in video and I thought, well, what am I doing?
That's different.
That's all right. We'll just leave. I don't have a hat to go with me, and the hair's probably all out of whack now. So you'll have to see it for the next couple of hours. Speaking of the next couple of hours, we are jam-packed. Going to lead off here in a moment with the Gamecocks' big upset last night over the Gators in Gainesville. Mike Morgan will join us at 1:30 today. He called the game with Debbie Antonelli on the SEC Network, so we'll get his thoughts from the broadcast, and out we'll have him kind of rehash what we saw last night and look forward for Carolina. They've got a homestand coming, and it was a great quad one win last night on the road for Frank Martin and his hoop squad. We also have in just about 6 or 7 minutes on our program Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the Gamecocks. He's going to join us today. They're 1 day over, 2 weeks away from the first pitch of the season.
Yep.
Going to get a look at his pitching staff at South Carolina and kind of make our way around the diamond with this year's Gamecock squad, who just recently, of course, added that series, big series over in Austin, Texas against the Longhorns. We'll talk to Mark Kingston probably sometime next week.
Okay.
So we'll have a couple of different looks here at Carolina baseball. We've also got Cory McCartney at 12:30 today on a bunch of different stuff. There's some things going on in the baseball world we got to get to with him. Got Super Bowl conversation as part of that as well. We got Scott Glaze, his segment in the short grass today, accompanied by a video. And of course, South Carolina is set to make a hire at the running back coaching position. Montario Hardesty is a former Tennessee Volunteer, a really good one. I've seen him play a couple of times, and he'll be joining the Gamecock staff moving forward. That Clemson news, their coaching staff got some major news to get out there. So we got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, we do. Busy Thursday. And I said on the show yesterday, I'm not going to say I went out on the limb that the Gamecocks would beat Florida, but I did say pretty confidently that I thought they'd play well. Yeah. They did play well. It was refreshing to see. And it wasn't just the fact that they won and they played defense and you could break down film however you want to break it down. How they played was refreshing, and you could see it from the opening tip. It was a different mentality, more of a free-flowing, like I said, taking on the personality of Frank Martin, which hasn't been the typical personality for a long time. Trying to get back to that, and I think it's seeped down into the guys.
Yeah, well, and look, so here's the thing. We've talked to Mike Morgan, we've talked to Debbie Antonelli, we've talked to Derek Scott all over the last few weeks a couple of weeks about this squad, all right? And I know they're all media people, but they're also all basketball people who spend a lot of time around the Gamecock basketball program. We've talked to David Cloninger. We've talked to a bunch of our local sources as well. But I'm going to circle these conversations around those three specifically because Derek sees every game in its entirety. Mike Morgan has called multiple games and keeps up with them when he's not calling those games. Debbie Antonelli has called a couple of games, keeps up with him when she's not, knows Frank Martin inside and out, knows his system, and, of course, knows basketball as well as anybody in the world. And all three of them, they've all said things that the common fan who just wants to be at the bottom of the barrel and light a match and set the whole damn thing on fire looks at as excuses. They have continued to say, look, this team couldn't get on the floor, couldn't get cohesive, couldn't get together, couldn't get Frank Martin's system the way that they need to get Frank Martin's system to enter January with.
Yep.
And I said yesterday, that's true, but a lot of these guys have been here a long time. And you would think like they shouldn't really have a lot to learn. But what they were saying is it's not about that. It's about being in the flow.
Yep.
That's what it's about. And finally, they have been able to string together some games. Now, I mentioned yesterday too, Derek, South Carolina, when they go to Vanderbilt, for whatever reason, the Commodores have their number in Nashville. When they play Georgia, they've got Georgia's number. Lately, when Carolina goes to Gainesville, they've got their number.
Yep.
And one of the things, like there's a couple of things that really stuck out, and I tweeted about them last night. First of all, Seventh Woods, best game in a Carolina uniform. I know he scored 12 points. I know he was 6 of 10 from the floor. Everybody's looking at that. That's great. I look at one number in his stat line every game.
Yep.
Turnovers.
Yep.
Turnovers. 26 minutes, 1 turnover. That was it.
Yep.
For Seventh Woods. You know, you got what you got out of Lawson. That's to be expected. I mean, he should give you 16 to 20 plus points a night. And you got 22 out of him last night. You know, Jermaine Couisnard looked a little bit better. But here's what really was better. The ball moved. And on defense, they rotated guys. They got help defense. It was a free-flowing defense that for the most part, there was a stretch in there where it wasn't together at all. But for the most part, Darren, everybody knew where everybody was, picking up guys, pointing guys out. They were communicating. You just haven't seen that. And that score right there, that 72-66, that's kind of Carolina. That's Carolina in a nutshell under Frank Martin.
Yeah, and what you said, look alive. I mean, that's what, when you hear coaches and players look alive, that's it. Have a little bounce in your step. Have some play with some confidence. Don't just be out there like you're lost. And like, it's not fair to say you don't care, because that's not it at all. But the perception of just being sluggish out there, that wasn't there last night. They came out with a purpose. They looked alive. They were bouncing around. They fell down at the half. They came back, made some adjustments. Like you pointed out with Seventh Woods, he's been criticized often, and rightfully so. He was 6 of 10, so he was taking the right shots. He wasn't forcing anything.
Right. Yeah.
He wasn't turning the ball over. You didn't get a double-digit scoring performance from Keyshawn Bryant, but he was all over the floor. He filled up the stat line. It was a nice team win. It's something that now, can you build on it? Can you take that and go into this stretch of a couple more ranked teams in the next 5 or 6 games? Can you beat them?
No, well, that's exactly right. I mean, it's what you do with it. There's no doubt about that. They did nothing with the Georgia win. They went to Nashville and lost.
Yep.
They got to do something with this. And one other thing, and I know Skylar is going to be on here in a minute, but one other thing I want to point out, too, at the end of that game last night, close game, into the ball game, for those, I'm not a basketball expert at all. And you're not either, but you called a hell of a lot of basketball in your time, and I don't know if I've missed maybe more than 4 or 5 games in the tenure of Frank Martin over the last 9 seasons.
Yep.
I don't know. I really don't think there's anybody. I mean, there's nobody that comes to mind, including the best ones. I don't know that anybody manages a game like Frank does down the stretch. He is so good at knowing when to hit a timeout, knowing when to coach his guy. I mean, you'll see him actually coaching through it. You can watch it. I mean, it's an art. You watch it happen, but you gotta be in that moment to allow him to. That's where he is real. I mean, he might be the best coach in the country like that. Like when he came from Kansas State, that was a big positive in his pocket.
Yes, it's one of his strengths. It may be his biggest strength, along with the defense. Just the intensity with which they play. There are lots of good coaches who manage things well down the stretch.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure,
the good ones do it, but I think that's one of Frank's strengths.
Yeah, he's really, really good, no doubt. All right, we got to head to the phone, though. This guy is really good as well. and it's been way too long since I've spoken to him, since we've spoken to him, but he's been kind of busy here in the new year. It's the pitching coach for the South Carolina Gamecocks, Skylar Meade, kind enough to hop on the air a little bit over 2 weeks away from first pitch up in Columbia, South Carolina. Gamecock baseball is back. What's up, man?
Oh, not much. I'm just walking around lovely Founders Park right now, looking at we got 54 and sunny here today. So, well, we'll call it hazy, but nice little day here at the park.
54 and sunny. First pitch Friday, February 19th at 4 o'clock. I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict it'll be 41 and cloudy with wind.
You know what? I'm telling you, if you listen to Coach Lake's Farmer's Almanac, that's what it says will happen. I don't know if that's going to play out or not. Although his Farmer's Almanac had predicted snow next week, and if you look at the Columbia forecast, they say there could be a little bit of snow next week. So I ride with Coach Lake in anything that is South Carolina.
Yeah, well, you'll play through that. You ride with Stewie. There's no doubt. He knows the weather well.
Every meteorologist listening just smashed their head into their steering wheel right now. I'm listening to a Farmer's Almanac.
Yeah. I was going to say, Ken O'Quinn here, he's very unhappy probably about
I was
the
about to say,
information I'm providing. But
yeah, this is gonna be big news today, Skylar. All the weather guys across the state. Skylar Meade breaking news that snow is coming to the Palmetto State next week. But
because the Farmer's Almanac said so.
That's what that's what Stuart Lake said.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I hope you're doing well. It's been a while, so not just Happy New Year, but Happy February. This is when college baseball starts. Skylar, let's just get right down to the team. We'll get some schedule stuff in here in a minute. I know the big news is the Texas series, but how have workouts been? You know, I know you got a lot of arms. I know you're excited about them, but what have you been seeing here in the preseason that has led to that excitement?
Well, certainly, I know there's been some hype about the arms and amount of guys with some stuff. And I think you're going to see that during the year. And, there'll be even some guys that probably get their feet wet early that'll continually improve once they're in real competitive environments. But, I love the offense too. I think especially these first couple scrimmages, it's been really cold. It's a tough environment. Guys are getting their feet wet. So maybe you haven't seen a lot of, home runs and stuff like that early on. But I think our offense is going to be, very feared, especially as the year goes on. I just think there's a lot of, strong bats, guys with some experience, the Brady Allen, Ister, Clark, even George Khalil down there, wherever he fits in the order. I mean, I just think there's a lot of talented guys. So, the biggest thing for us is we gotta play good defense. And we gotta have a couple, quote unquote unproven bullpen guys step up. But I think if all that shakes out, we could hopefully have some fun in June.
Skylar, we've never been through this before. You haven't played in almost a year because last year was cut short. I can't imagine how much your guys are itching to get out there and play against somebody else. And, as you've taken the temperature of the team, what have you found over the last couple of months?
Well, it's funny. It is a weird dichotomy. It's like you're trying to, as a coach, a player, whatever, you're trying to prepare yourself as best you can for an outside opponent. But you don't want guys to hold back either. So I think it's a unique thing going on through the players' brains because, they need to prove themselves. They need to be ready, but they also are just yearning to compete against somebody different because they haven't done that since March 10th of last year, as we all know, because of this pandemic. And so you fight that a little bit internally in practices, workouts and whatnot. But, I think we got enough older guys who are tremendous leaders for the younger players, and so I think their heads are in as good a place as possible. I mean, this isn't a thing that's just going on in South Carolina. I mean, and I talked to LSU's coaches, Texas A&M's coaches. I mean, their guys are going through the very same thing. They just want to get out there and battle and see where they stack up.
Skylar, I'm not one of the guys that ever looks at a star player and says, oh, God, you're going to have to replace that guy. You don't replace anybody. Everybody's their own person. Somebody has to step up and maybe take on that role, but you're not replacing kids. Carmen Majinski is no longer in the program. He's moved on to pro ball, and I think he's going to have a nice career. But when you look at Friday, Saturday, Sunday now, how is that setting up? Give me some names, some guys to keep an eye on.
Well, and in no particular order, we're going to let them battle it out, a couple of these guys go today, tomorrow, and Saturday. But, I think the 3 guys that you see pop up on any article written about us are certainly at least ahead of the curve right now with, Thomas Farr, Brandon Jordan, and Julian Bosnick. But, young guys like Magdi Alcado and Will Sanders and, newcomers like CJ Wines and, we got to get Andrew Peters healthy, but he had a dynamic fall. I mean, and then, the guy I hadn't even named because he can do anything is Brett Carey,
right.
So there's a lot of guys. I mean, I do think those 3 I named first are probably the guys probably a little ahead right now in the pecking order to be weekend guys. Like I said, how that'll shake up each day, I'm not really sure, but as I think we're learning every sport. I heard you guys for a second even talking about basketball, and I think even the same applied a little bit in football. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, there's going to be things that happen during this year, regardless of the precautions you take. So there's going to be a time where maybe one of those guys is, something happens with COVID, and you're going to have a guy step up. So our job as coaches, and especially the job of these players, is they need to prepare themselves to do anything. And so, because they're going to be asked at times to maybe do more than they did the previous week or the previous week before that. But, Farr's been really, really good. I mean, look, it's an average fastball of almost 96 miles an hour with 2 good off speed.
Oh.
Brandon Jordan had tremendous numbers last year, 21 innings, 32 punch outs, and only gave up 7 hits. And then Julian Bosnick's a kid who last year was good, but has really started to elevate his game, elevate his velocity. And, I think that, he could be really, really tremendous from the left side, whether, he's throwing Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Skylar Meade, pitching coach for the Gamecocks 12-17 on this Thursday afternoon. You mentioned the COVID. What have y'all been doing? How have you guarded against COVID to the best of your ability thus far?
Well, you do everything you can at your facility. You split your locker rooms. You wear masks. You distance. You time out things in the weight room with Coach Anderson. You try to be careful getting too close. The reality is most of that stuff, as important as it may be, they have to be intelligent as players as to what they do off the field. I mean, that's something that probably doesn't get talked about enough when you watch TV. And I'm not saying that placing blame. It's just the reality. You got a much better chance if you go out and you're out in a bar environment or you're around massive groups of people to catch it and obviously to get quarantined and not be able to perform. And so, we're taking every precaution here between, Coach Current, having us, in the dugout socially distanced, Wesley Turner, our director of operations, all the different precautions she helps us take. We do all of that here, and I think our guys do a pretty good job of it. But the reality is they got to make smart decisions when they're not here at Founders Park. And I think our guys are, but it's going to be a battle of attrition, I feel like, as the year goes on, around the country of what teams can make good decisions, maybe more than others.
How weird is it in the dugout? I mean, I know it's scrimmages, it's practice, but how weird is it in the dugout to consciously be thinking, wait a second, we got to spread out here? I mean, that doesn't happen. There's no room for that to happen.
Oh, it makes you cringe and laugh at the same time. I mean, the other day I'm talking to a couple pitchers, we're like, guys on the mound, and I'm like, hey man, you see how you threw that breaking ball? That was real good. Hey, can you guys make sure to spread out as well?
Oh, God.
I mean, it's just it's weird. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I'm a big college hoops fan, and watching these games with nobody in the stands is crazy.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting there like, what in the world is going on? But you know what? We all got to deal with it and just figure it out.
Skylar, you mentioned that you got some guys who throw it well, 95, 96. How many guys on this staff are up in the mid-90s right now?
I think there's been 13 guys that have been up to 95. And
wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now, I mean, look, we do a good job with what we do with our throw-in and the weight room, and we got talented players too. But it's something you're seeing nationwide.
Right.
But I think in the end, it's the guys that can really pitch can still really pitch. They're still going to be the Michael Roth style pitchers in the country. For us, Brett Carey, although Brett Carey still can, he's up to 93. Most of the times he pitches. But if you can dot it, hide the ball, and you can mix speeds, you're still going to get dudes out. And, you know, I think a lot of this stuff, we're in the Twitterfication world of pitching where there's more applause for you when you throw a ball 95 and a breaking ball with this high spin rate. You can't get anybody out. Like, you're terrible, rather than the guy that's 90 miles an hour with a pretty good breaking ball, but plus command, and he just goes out and dominates you every time. It's like, we're like devaluing what's important a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's odd. It's an odd dynamic. You know how it is. I mean, we see it in other sports sometimes, or you watch a basketball game and go, well, how the heck did this team beat this other team? They're more athletic, more physical. It goes, well, one of them can put the ball in the hoop and the other can't.
That's right.
You know, it can be a very simple thing.
You know, Skylar, the best time in the history of the Gamecock baseball program, clearly when they won back-to-back national championships, played for a third, but there was a structure in the rotation there. I mean, you knew who the starters were, you knew who the closer was, you knew who the couple setup guys were, you knew who you could go to a couple of arms here and there, and if you got to go to a lefty to get a lefty, you could do that. You could play some matchups and things like that. But Jerry, obviously, I know you've talked to Jerry a bunch. Jerry would tell you that. Mark Calvey. I mean, there was a structure to that bullpen and that staff those couple of years, and they were very comfortable and very accepting and willing of their roles. Do you feel close to that with this staff?
I do. I think it's still going to morph a little bit as the year goes. You know, guys have to maybe earn a little bit of that leash per se. But I do think we're going to have more options. We certainly have more left-handed pitchers than we've had in the past. I mean, we still don't have mass amounts, but there's enough guys that I think can do some things, whether they have a good fastball, they got, you know, a really good breaking ball to maybe counteract against some good left-handed hitters. So I think we will be able to do a little bit of that. My hope is that some of these really dynamic arms, though, they're not pigeonholed to just facing a right-handed hitter or left-handed hitter based upon what they are. You want them to be versatile enough where, regardless where the order comes up, you go, hey, I'm going to run this guy out. He's going to go do his thing.
Take me around the rest of the diamond, Skylar. What are we looking at? I know you had an injury behind the plate. I think the Boychuk kid is out for the year, and that is certainly unfortunate. I always look at the catchers because that's what I did. But take me around the rest of the diamond and tell me kind of what things look. I mean, we're still 2 weeks out. I mean, things are going to change. I get that, but kind of where things are flowing and feeling right now with the rest of your guys.
So behind the plate, you got Burgess, Wes Clark, and then, you know, your third catcher is probably David Mendham, who also is getting a lot of run and has a real good chance to play at first base. Okay. You know, second base, your top guys. Obviously, Heinrich is a versatile guy who played second and third last year, and we hope he fits in the lineup somewhere. Braylon Wimmer is really like Johnny utility, Johnny athlete, you know, between the three positions he's playing, which is center, second, and first. You know, your two guys at short who have been really good, they're kind of battling out neck and neck, is George Khalil and Michael Robinson, who's a junior college transfer in from Walter State. They look like clones because they're both about 6'3.5", 6'4" out there at short, which is pretty rare.
Wow, yeah.
Then, you know, Bryn Malone at third base, and like I said, Heinrich can float there as well. Malone's going to be, we think, one of the better hitters in the country when it's all said and done. We just didn't get to see that last year because I only got to play a couple games from a little hip deal. And then, you know, your outfield is got some interchangeable pieces. I mean, I think Eister or Allen will be in right/left, but there's also a scenario where Allen could play center field. And, you know, a guy like Joe Satterfield, Elon grad transfer, who's a really good player, he could play third, second, first, left.
Wow.
You know, we got that young kid, Brandon Fields, who's been running around center, and if we can get him to be very consistent, he's got a chance to be very special, and he's exceptionally twitchy. And so there's a lot of like floating pieces. I mean, I think we have some things narrowed down, but we certainly don't have any answers yet, but that's okay. I mean, we were talking about our first year earlier in a staff meeting, and, you know, the opening day lineup, it was 5 different players. When we looked at it come a super regional. So I think things will evolve, things will change, but I think we have enough options of guys, you know, and I didn't even mention Josiah Skylar because Skylar's going to be one of our better pitchers, but he's also a guy who's really improved with the bat. You know, he plays first base today. He's playing a little outfield, and he's going to close the last inning of the scrimmage. Like, we've added some versatility, which I think is important, especially in the SEC. You got to be athletic. You got to have guys that can do a lot of things. And so doesn't mean we're perfect, but I think we got enough pieces. If we can make the right moves and these guys step up, we should be pretty good.
Sounds to me like one of the challenges for the year will be managing the roster so that every guy is getting their crack, so they're ready when the opportunities come, which is, I guess, a decent problem to have, and more so the problem than you've had, I guess, the last couple of years for the Gamecocks, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. I mean, I think the key is just making sure you put guys in the right positions for success. And that, honestly, a lot of this practice and scrimmages and all the things we're doing is, it won't give us all the answers, but maybe it'll at least sort of push us in the right way.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a weird juggling act. And like I said earlier, the fear is as soon as you think you got something answered, you could have a guy pop for 2 weeks, for COVID, and you got to go back to the drawing board. So it is what it is. It's just, you got to be very steady Eddie and to get through this year. But, we got great leadership and experience in our coaching staff. I mean, Coach Kingston and Couch and Coach Lake have done this for a long time. I mean, it's amazing even for me to say out loud, this will be my 14th season coaching. So,
wow.
I mean, we got which blows my mind, because I know most people think I probably look like I'm 14, but
that's right.
But no, it's a really smart room of guys, and Coach Kingston will have this group ready to go. And look, our schedule, as you know, is a bear, but we'll get through it, and I think our guys will be better for it. And in the end, hopefully, we can be standing there when you play late in June. That's the hope.
Well, and that's the expectation in South Carolina, and you know that, and Mark knows that, and we know that you've embraced that. I mean, that's going to be my final question to you here, is I know you got to run. When the schedule came out, when the SEC schedule came out, it wasn't the teams on the schedule. We all knew who was going to be on the schedule. Skylar, you knew that. You knew what you're going to have to go up against. You're going to have to see Florida's 50 arms down there that throw 106 and paint the corner. You knew that you're going to have to see Leiter and Rocker and Vandy. You knew that LSU and Arkansas and Ole Miss and Mississippi State, they might be the best team in the country. I mean, they're always going to bring it. We knew that. We knew Clemson was on the schedule. We knew all that. But then last week, I'm sitting there texting with you back and forth, and then we get this Kendall Rogers leak on the Texas series, and so you've decided to schedule Texas on the road before going on the road to Nashville to see Rocker and Leiter. Oh, and by the way, 2 weekends before that, Clemson, and I hope nobody forgets about Mercer. Mercer's really good, and they're going to come to town March 5th through the 7th. So by virtue of scheduling a top 10 team on the road like the Longhorns, what message are you sending to Carolina fans about the 2021 Carolina baseball team?
Well, we certainly wanted to make sure, in case anyone said, maybe their schedule is the second hardest in the country. We said, no. Let's make sure we go ahead and make there be no question it will be the toughest schedule in the country. But you know what? You look at it, and I'm glad you said, because look, Mercer's no joke. And guess what? Dayton's got two guys. They got a preseason player of the year offensively, and they got a guy that was second in votes for preseason pitcher of the year. So they're going to be good too. Here's the deal. If you, and I know you're asking about Texas, so I'll give you even just, this is my personal coach synopsis, but if you're in Texas, regardless of what happens, and that helps you win 2 more SEC games. So let's just say you were going to win 13 SEC games, hypothetically, but you go down there, you're hardened, you face the Ty Maddens of the world and play in a foreign environment, but now you get to 15 wins. Are you going to regret scheduling that?
No,
Heck no.
No.
You're going to say, I'm better for it. It's like a lot of the, great college basketball teams that schedule these tough non-cons and then go play in the ACC or Big Ten or whatever. Like, you're trying to prepare yourself for what your end goal is. Some people's end goal is different. We know what the standard is here in South Carolina. We know what that is and what's expected. And no one's making promises, but we think this schedule, our team is tough enough to handle it. And we also think that it's going to most prepare us to do what we need to do in the SEC. So we'll grind through it. Every game is going to be it's going to be a battle royale, but hopefully there'll be a lot of fun within all of that too. And I think there will be.
And as you've mentioned, you feel like you got a team that's prepared to take this load on and we're certainly looking forward to checking it out here in just a couple of weeks. On that note, Skylar, we know you got to get on the field, and so we'll let you run on that note. I'll be in touch. I know we'll exchange some messages and stuff like that. We'll get you back on here shortly, but go get those guys ready to go. Dayton's only 2 weeks away, brother, and then Carolina baseball is back. Thanks as always for your time, my friend.
Oh, no, thanks for you guys having me on, and you guys enjoy the rest of the day.
You got it. There you go. Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, our first of many state baseball coaches to come over the next couple of weeks here as we prepare here for the 2021 college baseball season in one of the best baseball states in America.
I love that conversation because we're just talking baseball. You know, it's close. It feels closer now.
Yeah.
13 guys in the mid-90s.
That's a lot.
That's arms.
Yeah, well, and that's where it's trended. I mean, especially in this league over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, you've really seen it more, certainly prior to that. But, I mean, you know, last year you looked at Georgia's roster. Georgia had about 9 or 10 guys who could get it up there. Vandy in Florida have forever.
Yep.
They just have forever. You know, Arkansas always has a few guys that can really get it up there. Ole Miss has always had a few guys who could get it up there. You know, Missouri. I think people forget about Missouri a lot in the grand scheme of things when it comes to talking about the SEC. They've got arms coming out the yin-yang every year. I don't know where they get them from. But, you know, if you look in the draft, you look across Major League Baseball, some of the best arms in Major League Baseball.
Max Scherzer.
Right. I mean, Missouri guys.
Yeah.
You know, so they're there. I mean, they're there, and you're always going to get a good arm. Your Friday night arms in this league are the best arms in the country. I mean, that's just what you're going to get. You're going to see at least 10 guys a year that you're going to see in pro baseball. I mean, it's going to happen. So really looking forward to that. We'll get Mark next week sometime. We got Chad Holbrook coming up in the next few days. We got Tony Skoll. We got Monty Lee. We got them all here on our program. But coming up next is another guy who loves baseball, and that's Cory McCartney. Much more on the Gamecocks running backs hire later on in the program, more on Gamecock hoops and their upset last night. We got a bunch to get to with Clemson and some changes in their coaching staff. So it's a jam-packed final hour and a half. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control. We'll be right back.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what?
Hey, buddy, I'm not paying you to hear your thoughts on life. I'm paying you to sing.
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say! You are the worst wedding singer in the world, buddy.
Sir, one more outburst, I will strangle you with my microphone wire. You understand me?
You are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started.
12:35. Welcome back to JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Darren, Jamie, thanks to Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the Gamecocks in that last segment. Still have Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network ahead. We got our, what is it? Keep it in the short grass. Hey, cut your mic on.
I'll turn my mic on.
Keep it in the short grass.
In the short grass. Keep it in the short grass.
With Scott Glaze.
He always says that at the end of the whatever tutorial.
Okay. All right. And we've got Cory. Cory McCartney now. That's who's on screen in Atlanta, Georgia. What's up, brother? Do we have a segment name for this?
No, we should get a segment name for this.
What do you want to name the segment, Cory? I can't hear
on that one for a little bit.
Oh, there you are.
All right.
I have to sit on that one for a little bit. We're gonna have to wait.
Yeah, something.
I got to think. It took us 3 weeks. It took us 3 weeks to come up with something for Glaze.
Like Cory's stories or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Stories with Cory. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll come up.
We can do better.
Yeah, we can definitely do better. All right. How are you? How are things? How's Chipper Jones? I guess he's coaching, huh?
Yeah, I decided he didn't want to do the ESPN anything more with with Shambi going over to do the Cubs broadcasts, and he's into a part-time coaching gig now for the Braves as the hitting instructor. So, can't get much better. I mean, everybody comes out of retirement at some point and gets a part-time job. Chipper just doing a little bit faster than you would expect. And we had actually talked to him a number of times, in early retirement about whether he'd want to get back into coaching. And mentioned that he had young kids, and it was just something that he had interest in. He just didn't want to, be back on the road and back in that grind so early. So, not surprised that he's entering the coaching ranks. I wouldn't be surprised if long-term we see this blossom into something maybe a little bit more substantial, but certainly a big get for those Braves hitters to have him to look into.
He's obviously been around the Braves, and he's been offering whatever instruction, whenever he's asked. What type of influence has he had to this point, just on kind of the periphery for the Braves hitters?
You think about, with Atlanta having Gwinnett as their AAA home, being so close to the metro area and so close to Atlanta. He worked a lot with Ozzie Albies when Ozzie was coming up as obviously another switch hitter. Would go up and visit with those guys up there. So he's always kind of been there. He would be at spring training, as kind of a guest instructor for a little while as well. So he's been doing this stuff. I think this is just it becoming a little bit more concrete and just having a little bit more, set parameters in what he does and just being basically a little bit more official. But he's been doing this stuff for some time, certainly with Braves hitters.
Are the Braves going to still allow him to hunt?
Got this jacked up truck that has that Major League Bowman on the side of it. It's all camo and stuff. So the guy's got to make some ends to help out with all this hunting stuff that he does.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. He's probably getting low on cash. I mean, the Double Dime Ranch has got to suck it out of him, right?
I would imagine, yeah.
No, I mean, I can only imagine.
Yeah, when I think Chipper, I think getting low on cash. Totally. Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Double Dime Ranch?
No.
I know you haven't been to the ranch. Have you ever been to the website just to check it out, what they do? It's pretty neat. They there's a bunch of people that go out there to hunt with Chipper and stuff like that.
Right.
Cory, I want to shift gears a little bit here. Nolan Arenado is headed to St. Louis. And so what does that do for the Cardinals? I mean, are they the central favorites? Do they become one of the favorites to win the National League? I mean, you've got Goldschmidt, you got Arenado, both in that lineup now. And this is impressive.
I think they've established themselves as the favorites in the Central. I mean, look, the Cubs basically, it seem like they're giving up in a number of ways, and we'll see what happens with in terms of third base there with Bryant for them if they actually end up moving him. But from my standpoint, I think the Cardinals now have the best corner infield in the game. I know there's a lot of people who have kind of fought back, and I put that on Twitter as far as Chapman and Olsen in Oakland, but. I know that Goldschmidt did not have a great year last year, but I mean, you're talking about a guy who's been, a top 3 first baseman for 10 years now. And obviously Arenado has been the gold glove standard at third base for some time now. And it just gets even crazier when you think about the fact that Colorado's sending money along with this deal. So they're, basically $15 million for, I believe it is for this year that they're helping out. The Rockies are in terms of the salary that the Cardinals have to pay. And more beyond that. So That's why, there was talk about, well, why couldn't they, why would they, not get Colton Wong, but they can afford to get Nolan Arenado? Is the fact that the Cardinals are helping out from a financial standpoint. So there's not even that, it's not even as big of a pull. They still got some pitching concerns. Certainly, Adam Wainwright coming back is not the Adam Wainwright of a few years ago. We'll see if Yadier Molina ends up returning there. I would imagine this is just even more of an onus for him to get back to St. Louis on a possible 1-year deal. I think very much the favorites in the Central right now in St. Louis.
Why are they sending that cash to St. Louis? Explain that trade. What were the details of the trade?
A little bit to offset it. And obviously he comes with a little bit of a risk because that he has an opt-out after this year. So there was assurances made to the Cardinals that he would not be opting out. So they're going to have Nolan Arenado. And that was kind of the part of the deal when the Braves were being talked about of the potential landing spot for him too, was that you would potentially just get him for 1 year and then he could walk. And how much were you willing to give up? I think it was a deal that the Braves very much could have equaled to have gotten him into Atlanta, but this was a big get. This fan base is, and we'll see when we can actually have fans again. And certainly the draw there, and knowing how much invested that ownership is into making the Cardinals a force was reason enough for Arenado to let them know he would not be pulling out of that trade clause. That walk clause he has.
If the Braves could have matched that deal but didn't, what does that say about the Braves, and should they have matched that deal?
This is kind of a really interesting situation because, obviously right now, Marcell Ozuna is still sitting out there. We think that there's not going to be a designated hitter in the NL in 2021, and everything has led us to believe at this point it's not going to happen. It obviously was on the table for, the offering that the league had given to the players. Did it. They had tied it to an expanded playoff, which the players don't want those things to be. Obviously, this leaves the Braves in a lurch here in a lineup that has a major hole in it. So what are you telling Freddie Freeman in coming off of the finest season of his career, an MVP season? What are you telling Ozzie Albies and Ron Acuna Jr., who took sweetheart deals and the kind of deals that allow you to bulk up around them? I think it's a bad message right now. I mean, obviously there's time. There's 2 weeks before they have to report to spring training. There's still time whether or not they swing a trade. Obviously Jose Ramirez from the Indians has been bandied about. I mentioned, again, Bryant potentially from the Cubs. There's still the potential of Ozuna coming back. But right now, it just feels like a weird message that you're sending to a team that was, basically potentially leave them with such a massive hole in their lineup.
What do you anticipate anything specifically happening? Like, are you leaning one way or another over the next couple of weeks with the Braves and which way they go with some of this?
That Marcell Ozuna hangs out there, the more likelihood it is that he comes back to Atlanta. Certainly there's the comfort zone that he had there. He obviously endeared himself to that entire lineup. He may not get the multi-year deal that he wants until it's solidified that there's a DH in the National League. So do the Braves, in holding out, end up benefiting for this season with Ozuna having to, again, go on a short-term deal, potentially 1-year deal, just because there's so much uncertainty around what happens with the DH. So I think the longer it waits, I think the better it poses for him. But now you're hearing teams like the Rays even potentially being involved in hunting him down. But now Nelson Cruz is off the market. So I think the suitors for Marcell Ozuna are starting to dwindle, and I think it ultimately just helps the Braves.
On Twitter at Cory J. McCartney. Cory McCartney joining us live from Atlanta, Georgia, 12:45 on a Thursday afternoon. Let me ask you, maybe you probably didn't know this question was going to come up today, but I saw Felix Hernandez signed a minor league deal with the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, this is a guy at one point in time who many in baseball maybe looked at as the best arm in the game. Of course, he was with Atlanta last year, and then he opted out. He had signed a minor league deal with the Braves, and then he opted out. But apparently he's opted back into the 2021 season, and he's got a minor league deal there. I think he's played like 15 years, which is even hard for me to believe in big league baseball. What type of life does he have left in his career? Baltimore was 25-35 in that shortened season last year, which isn't necessarily good, but I think it was better than people thought it would be for the Orioles. Like, I think they have some young pieces that are coming up that are going to be able to help them in the AL East, which is, we all know, is difficult. But What is left in the tank of Felix Hernandez, and can he come up this year and help Baltimore?
Going to be surprised if this is a guy that's in their rotation to open up the season. But the thing you have to remember with him is, at the end of his career in Seattle, he just was not the same guy that, was just, racking up the strikeouts, and obviously, was a Cy Young winner and established himself as one of the best pitchers of his generation. I think he kind of got caught up in the notion of, and this obviously just, looking into the numbers here and seeing the way that his fastball velocity had dropped so much. And obviously the changeup was such a big factor for him as well. He got little to no variation between the fastball and changeup at the end of his career in Seattle. I just don't think he was a guy who was willing to reinvent himself there. I don't know if it was tied to the fact that, he was King Felix in Seattle. What he had showed early in Braves camp, I think had led some people to believe that, okay, maybe this guy's got something left and he's willing to kind of change things up in a way that he wasn't with the Mariners. Obviously he opted out. He stayed training, and he landed. I think he's got a great chance to make that, as long as he's willing to accept that he's not the Felix of old and reinvent himself. Look, I always go back to Anibal Sanchez when I think about pitchers like this. Sanchez was the guy who could rack it up there. This was a guy who early in his career, when he was pitching with Verlander and Max Scherzer, could go toe-to-toe with those guys. And then late in his career, he had to reinvent himself and become somebody who the changeup was his biggest weapon. And we saw the success he had in Atlanta, carry that into Washington. Certainly a ton of success there. We'll see if Felix Hernandez is willing to do the same thing.
All right. Every year, Corey, we get a new group of names that kind of come on the scene. And I know that we're a couple of weeks out from spring training. I think the end of this month is when they're set to start spring training games, actually, in Arizona and down in Florida. But as it stands now, we have turned the calendar into February. Baseball is starting soon. Who are some of the top names that over the next few weeks we need to start keeping an eye on? Maybe even some that are, I want to say not local, but maybe more regionalized. Some names like Casey Mize, for instance, a guy who pitched at Auburn. Names that we may recognize from our neck of the woods, or at least the southeastern part of the country.
Wow. You think about Joey Bart, certainly from Georgia Tech. The heir apparent to Buster Posey. I think how much of a run does Buster Posey have left? I think that's a guy that, you're going to hear a ton about. He's not necessarily tied to, but I think has a position to be one of the next big stars in baseball. Joe Adell. That's a guy that obviously, is out with the Angels now. He came up last year and was not spectacular, but if the Angels are going to do anything in what seems to be a much more open AL West, I think that's a guy that, people have been waiting for him to kind of have that star moment. We'll see if he gets that opportunity this year, because I think he's going to be a guy that could absolutely erupt. And, obviously playing a little close to home, you're going to hear a lot about Ian Anderson and what he's able to build off last year's run. Obviously the Braves have so many young pitchers, obviously, and so on and on. But, when you talk about guys from this area, I think there could be big names for 2021. I think Joey Bart's somebody to definitely keep on a short list.
Jamie just mentioned spring training probably getting started up here at the end of the month. Is it? Where do we stand right now? Right, the owners proposed the shortened season. The players turned that down. I think I've got that right. Where do we stand right now?
2 weeks, and the players are going through the rigors here to get themselves ready to be down there for that time period. We'll see if anything changes in these next couple of weeks. Certainly there's still a few things at play here. We had mentioned a designated hitter. That's something that the owners have presented a package and included to the players that they rejected because it also tied into that a couple other things. The expanded postseason that the league's already reached an agreement with ESPN to air that doesn't even exist yet. And there was necessarily, they didn't want assurances baked in there, where they could not get full compensation or full pay if they don't play 162 games. So I think the players want to safeguard themselves in a way that they didn't last year. And obviously, a year ago, we saw, Commissioner Rob Manfred be able to, basically circumvent everything that was going on and give a hard, fast start date for the season. I think the players are trying to make sure that they're protected in a little bit different way than they were last year. But obviously that's from the negotiating table. And then what's going on with Arizona and Florida in terms of their COVID cases? What if those communities decide that they need to ratchet things up? Obviously baseball is going to be, caught in the middle of all that. Certainly the players in the union are still trying to figure out safety protocols for the 2021 season. So I say 2 weeks until they report, but it feels like there's a ton left to do. I think from this end, all the players can do, because these guys got to get themselves, ramped up to play baseball again. And I think that's been the message from the union is get yourselves ready as you normally would. And if something changes, I think they're all, after last year, you're going to see guys just continue to stay up on what they're doing, because, who knows what could happen, but certainly as of now, everyone preparing for baseball as normal for 2021.
Wow, it's amazing. We're still having these conversations, and we will be for quite some time. I know that I had asked you about some of the top young prospects in the game. Real quick to the Braves roster to link this, and then I want to ask you about the Super Bowl, and we'll let you run. Who right now currently would be behind Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate for the Braves?
Would be, certainly there's, there could always bring Tyler Flowers back if they didn't feel like, Contreras is ready for that. But I think the idea is, because you got d'Arnaud on a 2-year deal, that you allow Contreras to come up and kind of, learn with him and try to get a better grasp on being a major league catcher. Because I think, while they had timeshares before with guys like Flowers and Suzuki and certainly, that's been a motive for the days of Brian McCann really holding it down. I think, with d'Arnaud, you get a guy who can maybe catch 75% of the games, so you can work in. And so I think that's where they stand with catching right now.
What's the timeline look like, at least in your mind, for Shea Langeliers? Their guy from Baylor last year, one of the top picks in the draft, one of the top catchers in minor league baseball. What's the timeline for him?
The ETAs you're seeing on him around 2022. So, we could go into next season with Contreras, kind of having, the brunt of the opportunities there, but Langeliers getting an opportunity to, show he's ready as well. I think Langeliers is a little bit better along in terms of hitting than Contreras is, but, certainly you look at that lineage can bring you behind the plate. So I think Langeliers is going to get long-term an opportunity there. I think it speaks to how much they like him, that the Braves, were kind of on the periphery of it with JT Realmuto, but did not, go in either trading for him, when he was with Miami, or signing him as a free agent, that they have guys that they believe in for the future.
Before we get to the Super Bowl, we can't just gloss over baseball without asking you about the Nationals and their attempt to keep pace with the Mets in the NL East. So what do you think about the Lester signing? What do you think about how the Nats are at least keeping their heads above water?
Sneaky addition. I think that about that guy coming off of a 30 home run season. Does he return to that? I mean, you look back to that year in that second half, whether he just was thinking home run in every swing, just fell off the map. But that guy certainly has a ton of power potential. Obviously, with Kyle Schwarber, you got a ton of power. I think these guys are going to hit a lot of home runs. I'm really worried about the defense, though, because now you're moving. Obviously, you're moving Juan Soto to right field to make room for Schwarber and left if there's no DH. And then, to me, Victor Robles is just going to run himself ragged trying to cover up ground between those, what those two guys can't cover. So I have some concerns about their defense in the outfield, but they're going to hit a lot of home runs. They're going to be a lot of fun, and obviously, it gets no better in baseball when you talk about 1 through 3 in a rotation than what those guys have.
Yep.
Thanks, Corey. Did they finish dead last year, or
they won the World Series 2 years ago?
2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Think about the hangover, right, from the Super Bowl / World Series hangover. If you're going to have it in any year, wasn't last year the year to have it,
Absolutely.
I think everybody had a hangover last year, didn't they? Everybody.
For the year.
That's right. All right, Corey, careful where you get your hair cut, especially if you're playing for the Chiefs. They had 20 people, including Pat Mahomes, in line for a haircut this week, and I'm sure you saw the story, with a barber who tested positive for COVID-19. I mean, would that not be, the ultimate sports COVID story? Yeah, the Super Bowl is going to be postponed for a month because of someone's barber. But it looks like they're okay. I think they pulled the barber out and everything's good to go here. But as we start to get closer here, we're only a couple of days away from the Super Bowl. You got the legend and you got the kid. You got Mahomes, you got Brady. In your estimation, how do you kind of put this game together in your head? I mean, I think a lot of folks really want to pick, Tom Brady to win it, but me, that's where my heart is. My head is like, well, the Chiefs are better, but they're playing in Tampa. I don't know. How do you look at it?
See that State Farm commercial anymore where everybody's trying to get the Patrick Mahomes haircut. I haven't seen it. I don't think I've seen it since that story came out. But it's interesting when you think about this game because, I think for so many of us, we got so tired about the Patriots, right? So do you pull for Tom Brady now, knowing that he's kind of, not that he's tainting anything that happened in New England, but obviously he distanced himself a little bit from that by winning. If he can win this one, and maybe you don't hate the Patriots so much anymore, you put all your focus on that one guy. But I just to me it's like ring chasing versus something that was built to win. I think that from that end, the Chiefs just seem like they have just so much going for them. I mean, Tyreek Hill is just ridiculous every time. Fans obviously on both sides of this. It's hard to bet against Tom Brady in these situations, but to me, I mean, Mahomes is just on a different level right now. He just does things that we've never seen before. I think they find. I mean, it could get shootout potential here, which probably means it's going to be low scoring. But I think the Chiefs are going to walk away with the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like we're watching the page turn, if that makes sense.
Like the passing of the torch.
I do. Like, I don't know who's going to win the thing, Corey, but like you look at what Brady has done, it's so methodically, basically for 20 years. I mean, I think he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. And then you look at this new age style that we're seeing in Kansas City, that offensive philosophy and the way that Mahomes commands the offense, and he's worth $500 million now. And I almost feel like it's almost poetic. Like I don't think Brady's set to retire after this game. I don't think he is. I think he's going to probably stick around for at least another year or two, if not more. But it almost feels like you're seeing the page, like somebody's like thumbed the page in the book, and it's like that's what we need to mark that, because that's where we're going to turn this thing.
And like the generation of quarterbacks that Brady kind of represents, right? I mean, Peyton and obviously Aaron Rodgers is still playing, Roethlisberger, like that whole run of them. None of them ever got to that Brady level, and certainly you've got a guy now in Mahomes that can get to that point by literally dethroning Tom Brady on the biggest stage of the game. Fascinating from that end. It is really almost set up, some kind of Shakespearean, thing here for him to, even though he's already won and even though he already has that contract and he has that MVP. I mean, this is the guy you're still kind of playing in the shadow of. This could be the defining game for Patrick Mahomes. Put it on like that for a guy so young, and certainly there's going to be others to come. But I mean, this just feels like. A just kind of, as you mentioned, just a generational shift, and for this guy he has the opportunity to put his foot down on Sunday and let people know this is his league, and I think that's the chance that's ahead of there for Patrick Mahomes.
All right, final question. Your OSBP that's what we call our official Super Bowl prediction. Your OSBP, Corey.
42 to 20.
To 20 what? Got it. Chiefs
20 something.
Okay, there you go. Perfect. We have
24. All right, I could read his lips. His mic went out.
We'll make ours tomorrow. Yeah, 42. Wow, that'd be a big one. On that note, enjoy the Super Bowl. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. Baseball is soon, Corey. I can't wait to crank it all back up with you as baseball season approaches here. Wonderful job as always, my friend, and we'll talk next week. All right, brother. Thank you. There you go. Cory McCartney joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. It is time for a timeout. Maybe a cheesesteak. It's buy one, get one half off footlongs at DV's Cheesesteaks. Check out the entire menu at dvscheesesteaks.com. Remember, they're on every delivery app out there. Order lunch right now. Do it right now. dvscheesesteaks.com. When we return into the Montario Hardesty hire for South Carolina, some news out of Clemson today. We want to get that out to you as well. More on the Gamecocks upset win last night against Florida. We've got some golf to get to with Scott Glaze, and at 1:30, a big conversation with Mike Morgan. He called the upset in the O-Dome.
Yes.
And he's going to tell you what he saw as well. So hang tight. An hour in the books, an hour to go, right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
Final hour on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. Protected by McFadden Pest Control. McFaddenPestControl.com is where you can find the folks who've been in business for over 4 decades taking care of the Low Country. McFadden Pest Control is owned and operated by my friend Heath Gunther. They've been protecting our home for over 3 years. They just came at the end of last week and took care of our house. Once again, no pests, no rodents, no nothing, no silverfish, no sugar ants, no spiders, no roaches, nothing.
Those silverfish are the worst.
They are. You don't even know where they come from.
No, they just appear.
But they're there. But not when you have McFadden Pest Control, and we've had them this long for a reason. They're locally owned and operated. If you do have a problem, you actually call them and, talk to somebody in the office, which means a lot because everybody's automated these days, but not them. No. McFaddenPestControl.com. I'm telling you, just give them a try. They'll take care of your mosquitoes. They'll take care of your termite bonds as well. McFaddenPestControl.com. If you're watching, look to the right of your screen. That's Darren. I'm Jamie. We're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Halfway home, also halfway home with our guests. Thanks to Skylar, Meade, and Cory McCartney for joining us in the first hour. Coming up in just a little bit, Scott Glaze for a few minutes today, and then Mike Morgan. He called South Carolina's upset win last night over the Florida Gators. More on that here in a moment. But first, yesterday, word leaked, and it was confirmed by all of our friends in the media at thebigspurter.com, Gamecock Central, who, by the way, broke the story, our friend Wes Mitchell first, that Montario Hardesty will be the new and final hire for South Carolina's coaching staff. That's right. Montario Hardesty, of course, played football at Tennessee. I remember him well. And he has been in coaching for a little while. This will certainly be his biggest job, replacing Des Kitchens, who has moved on to the NFL and an opportunity he just could not turn down. He is coming to South Carolina from Charlotte, so not far away, just up the road is where his current gig is with the 49ers. He's a guy who many see as a rising star in the industry. Darren, so I sent out a couple of texts yesterday to some people who are going to know a little bit more about this than I am. And here's some of the information I've gathered outside of what we all know about Montario Hardesty. This is a guy who there's a couple of other programs in the SEC that were trying to hire him as well. And South Carolina got him.
Yep.
So I think that's a good sign, certainly, for the Gamecocks. You do have to wonder a little bit. There was just a coaching change up at Tennessee, and Josh Heupel is the new head coach, and you got to wonder, what did anything even happen there? Was he considered for that position at his alma mater? Was he considered and he elected to not go there? I mean, I don't know, but here's what I do know. There were other suitors, and I don't know the names of those schools in the SEC that were knocking on his door, hoping he would join their program as well. But he is elected to work for Shane Beamer.
And it may have also been that he was on the lists of other programs. I mean, it's not like there are a ton of running back coach jobs that are open at the moment. So he may have been on some lists and gone through some of those processes, and for whatever reason, either they, the school, or he chose not to. But it's not the first hire that Beamer has made that he had competition for, right? I mean, Clayton White, who a lot of people said who when he was hired, but there was a lot of competition to bring the defensive coordinator down from Western Kentucky also.
Right.
At least that's a good sign. We'll see. I mean, I don't think the name Montario Hardesty, I know it's not going to resonate with 18, 16-year-olds today the same way it does with us, because we saw him play. But maybe he can at least parlay that into recruiting. That's a time will tell hire.
Yeah, still a young guy. As a matter of fact, I think him and I are the same age. And he followed me on Twitter last night, I noticed.
There you go.
But he played at Tennessee until 2009. He got his coaching career in 2014 under the NFLPA internship program at Chowan University, and then he joined the staff at Norfolk State. And then after that, he was running backs coach and special teams coordinator. That's where he was running backs coach and special teams coordinator at Norfolk State. He went to Florida Atlantic and worked with Lane Kiffin in 2017. He was an assistant strength and conditioning coach there. Of course, Lane Kiffin coached him for one season, or kind of, in 2009. And then after that, it was on to Charlotte, and now on to South Carolina. So he's rising up the ranks fast. I really like the hire.
Okay.
I really like the hire. From what I understand, he is well connected in the coaching industry. He can recruit, which is something that you need out of your running backs coaching position, certainly. And he's going to step into a really good position at Carolina. This is you could argue, I would say, alongside the offensive line, maybe the most sewn up position in the program.
Yeah.
I mean, you got an all SEC guy coming back, and then you got another guy who was maybe the top running back in the nation coming out of high school, and Marshawn Lloyd. Those are going to be your top two guys. I mean, he's going to walk into a really good situation.
I'm really curious to see what Harris does next year. We have a long way to go, but I mean, Lloyd goes down, and it was this is going to be the biggest problem that the Gamecocks have all year. The running back spot turns into the biggest positive they've got, virtually. So now you've got this Kevin Harris, who was a role player. He was good. Nothing like when he just burst onto the scene. So does competition make him better? Does Lloyd take over for him? Is this a 50-50 thing? That's one of the intriguing storylines for me going into next year is Kevin Harris.
J.C. Sherbert put out an article on thebigspur.com. I would encourage Carolina fans to check it out. 16 offensive linemen will return for South Carolina in 2021. 16. 9 of them have started games. So when you pair that with these two guys, you should start to get a little bit of an idea where they're going to start with trying to develop this offense. And here's another young offensive mind who, by the way, has spent time with Lane Kiffin and has spent time with another young coach in this industry. There's a lot of people very high on him, and that's Will Healy in Charlotte. I mean, he's a guy who is considered more of a cutting edge type name in college football now. Probably going to take a step up the next couple of years at some point in time. So he's been around good coaches. He's got a pretty good offensive philosophy from what I've been told kind of fits what they're looking for at South Carolina. And this offense is going to be run under Marcus Satterfield. Let me tell you a quick story about Montario Hardesty.
Story time.
So in 2009, I tweeted this last night. I was there in Knoxville on Halloween when Tennessee came running out of the tunnel in black jerseys. Carolina was ranked 21st in the country. All right. And most Carolina fans felt pretty good going into that game because in 2005, Spurrier took the Gamecocks up there and beat the Vols. Josh Brown hit a 49-yard field goal with a couple of minutes to go, and they would win the game 16-15. In 2007, Carolina goes up there, goes to overtime, and loses. Ryan Suckup had like a 50-something yarder to try to tie it in OT, and it went wide, and Tennessee won the game. All right, and this was, I think, a week after South Carolina had been upset by Vanderbilt, which was right after they had just gotten to number 6 in the country. So they had never had any success in Knoxville until 2005, and then on the brink of it in 2007. And then they were, by the way, that 2007 game, and Emmanuel Cook just falling on a fumble, they'd have won the game. But that's neither here nor there. And then in 2009, it's like, okay, we're ranked 21st in the country. Tennessee had kind of been struggling going into this game, and everybody felt pretty good about it. And the Gamecocks go up there, couldn't get anything going on the ground. Garcia had to throw it 50 times. And I remember his stat line because it was very simple to remember. 25 of 50 for 300 yards. And Carolina, they could do nothing. And Tennessee's defense was all over them. It was cold. It was upper 30s, maybe right around 40. It was raining. It was Halloween. They were in black jerseys. And Montario Hardesty ran all over South Carolina. Like 20 carries for 120-something yards, scored a couple of touchdowns. And ever since then, I was like, I just, that damn Hardesty. Well, he's in garnet and black now. So he'll be coaching South Carolina in Knoxville here in 2021 against the Vols. I do think it's a good hire. And hopefully this is the final hire for South Carolina. Hopefully nothing else changes here. But when you look at the history of running backs coaches now, the last two have jumped to the NFL, Thomas Brown, Des Kitchings. I honestly don't know that I'd be shocked in a few years to see his name coming up with NFL jobs. I mean, he does have NFL time.
Yep.
And he's one of the young, he fits that mold. I mean, he's just one of these young guys who's kind of moving through the system fast. So I think Shane Beamer did a nice job. I know that he mentioned yet in his press conference yesterday, he offered somebody yesterday morning. That told me that Willie Simmons never had an offer. So the Clemson fans out there that have spun this, there's a couple of them. They don't have anything to do with their lives. They just get on Twitter and try to, get under people's skin. Willie Simmons didn't have an offer to come to South Carolina, but the conversation was had about whether that would be a good fit. I don't know what happened, but they gave one offer, and it was to Montario Hardesty, and he's the new guy.
Whatever happened, it feels as though there was interest on South Carolina's side. I don't know about Freeman's side. And
you mean Simmons?
I called him Freeman before too.
No, there was legit interest. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, on Simmons' side. And it feels as though Simmons used South Carolina for better footing down where he is at FAMU.
Well, he got
that's
it.
That's what it feels like.
If that's what happened, then it worked out just fine. But it's an SEC guy. He's not a South Carolina guy. He's not. He's not one of these guys that people have talked about. Oh, they want to hire, alumni and things like that. Pat DeMarco's name obviously has been out there. We've talked about it a bunch on this program. Had Devontae Freeman on this week to talk about Pat.
Yep.
I know Corey Boyd's name's been thrown around, and there's been some others, but it's going to be Montario Hardesty for Gamecock football, and he will hit the ground running here very soon. It's not officially announced yet by the school, but we expect that to happen anytime now, today, maybe tomorrow.
And if he does follow that same trajectory, if he becomes on the Des Kitchings path and this is a big job for him because this is
a great job.
This is a proving job for him.
Yeah.
It could go that way. It could go a different way. This is a wait and see hire for me. I like the name. Well, but it's a wait and see.
I think there's a lot of those on this staff right now. I mean, I feel good about them.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot of those.
Yep.
I mean, I think the hires that folks feel most comfortable with, Justin Stepp, and is certainly one of those. I think Pete Limbo, people are really excited about that. Adkins coaching the offensive line, but I mean, I think everybody's wait and see with the OC, with the DC, with the defensive line coach. Mike Peterson, people feel pretty good about retaining him.
Yep.
Real quick here, do have some news from Columbia. This past year in 2020, Carolina was scheduled to play Wofford in football. They have rescheduled that game for November the 23rd, 2024, and they've also added another one for 2026. So they did reschedule the Wofford game for a couple of years down the road. So I wanted to pass that along. All right, before we get Scott Glaze in, I know he's ready to rock and roll. Some notes from Clemson this morning. They've added 3 years to Tony Elliott's contract, which will take him through January 1st, 2026 in the upstate. His total compensation increases from 1.7 to a flat $2 million, and that is effective July 1. More on that in a moment. Brandon Streeter, quarterback coach and passing game coordinator, he's going to get a little bit of a raise, $25,000. So his compensation goes from $590 to $615,000. They've also added another year to his contract. Danny Pearman, if you'll remember, was taken off the field as tight ends coach and special teams coordinator. He is now in an off-field scouting role. He's got a big pay cut coming, about $300,000. He went from $545 to $250 a year, and he's on a new 2-year deal at Clemson. CJ Spiller is going to make $300,000 a year. And safeties coach Mickey Kahn is Clemson's new special teams coordinator, replacing Danny Pearman in that role. Okay. So some of the changes from the upstate there. On the Tony Elliott deal, by the way, this year, there were 5 names in college football who made over $2 million as a coordinator. The top 3 are no longer coordinators. Steve Sarkisian is the head coach at Texas. Kevin Steele is, we don't know what's going on here.
Cleaning up wherever he is.
But he's not going to make $2.5 million at Tennessee. And Bo Pelini has been let go at LSU. So that leaves the top paid assistant coach in college football to be Clemson's Brent Venables at $2.4 million.
And Elliott becomes just the second offensive coordinator. The 3 guys you listed, Sark was the only OC. So Elliott's the second offensive coordinator to make $2 million a year in college.
That's right. And he'll be, as of this list, as it is right now today, he'll be the 3rd highest paid assistant coach in the country. So 2 of the top 3 highest paid assistant coaches in the country are at Clemson, Brent Venables and Tony Elliott. They've invested a total of $4.4 million into their 2 coordinators.
Shocking, right? Because the teams that are really good are paying their coordinators more. Alabama, LSU, they fired him because he wasn't very good, Pelini, but and Clemson.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Remarkable.
You need money for your assistants.
Well, they've got it. And they're paying Dabo Sweeney over 9. I mean, this staff at Clemson is not coming in any way, shape, or form close to cheap. Probably is the highest paid staff in the country. It's got to be.
And they win.
It's got to be.
And they win.
We're not paying Scott Glaze that much to stick around and talk golf with us, but he's going to do it anyways. Again, that's what he does around here on Thursday afternoons.
We're waiting for him to hop on in.
Okay.
I'm sure he'll be there soon.
Hopefully he'll jump in when he does. Let us know, and we'll make sure we get to his video. as well. Some other news in sports that is just not good news, and it's unfortunate news, but it's news that was probably going to happen, is at the Division III level. Winter championships are canceled for the 2020-2021 year at the NCAA Division III level. The national championships affected men's and women's basketball, men's and women's swimming and diving, men's and women's indoor track and field, men's and women's ice hockey and wrestling. And during the review of the data, the championships committee determined that participation numbers in all 9 winter sports are well below the established threshold to provide a national championship experience. The established thresholds were 60%. You had to have 60% participation in basketball, swimming and diving, indoor track and field, and then you had to have 70% participation in ice hockey and wrestling, and they were way below the thresholds at the D3 level. So the championships have been canceled, unfortunately, for all of those sports at that level, it sucks, but that's the way it goes.
Yep.
All right, to the phone lines we go. Just going to spend a couple of minutes here with our friend Scott Glaze out at Stono Ferry on the banks of the Stono River, the beautiful Stono Ferry Golf Club in Hollywood, South Carolina. What's up, brother?
What's going on, guys? Glad to have a little bit warmer weather today. We got a little bit of a cold stretch and some rain and whatnot, but today's a good day, and hopefully we have a good Super Bowl weekend. We've got our Super Bowl Blitz coming up on Sunday, which is a fun member event that we have, and yeah, it's a good time. Every day is a great day at Stono Ferry. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you're stealing a line from Nikki Haley there. Every day's a great day. Carolina.
Day.
What is the Super Bowl Blitz? Can somebody still get into that, or is it full?
So it's a member only event for our members here at the club. Our club membership is growing greatly, which is awesome. We had 55 new members in 2020.
Wow.
And which is great. And we're continuing to grow. We still have room to grow, which is great. So if you are out there listening and interested in what I think is the best club membership experience in the Low Country, give me a call to chat about that. It's extremely affordable. We can give you the country club feel without the country club price. That's what I tell a lot of people. So it's an event that we do every year for the members, Super Bowl Blitz. So we also do one for Masters Sunday too. Everybody comes out; they can make their own pairings and whatnot, and we play a quota-based game. So you get a point quota based on your handicap, and then it's a Stableford scoring system. So a par is worth 3 points, a birdie's worth 5 points, bogey's worth 2, so on and so forth. And gambling is illegal at Bushwood, but there might be some cash that exchanges hands between those groups, but it's a lot of fun. Then usually it ends up finishing right before the Super Bowl. So if people want to hang out and watch the first half or so, they can, but usually go home to however they're going to watch the Super Bowl or the Masters when we do it in April. So it's another fun thing that we do for the membership out here.
I tell people all the time, golf is similar to Vegas. What happens on the golf course stays on the golf course.
Yeah,
I mean that's
golf is similar to Vegas.
It's just look, whatever's going on in that cart, it stays in that cart. All right,
That's right.
Unless you're at Stono Ferry, because if you go out onto the course and this cart path only, they will stop you right in your tracks, and you will be backed up in reverse back onto that pavement.
Yep. Hey man, we do it to keep the course as beautiful as it is. We can't have people running amok out here, but it is cart path only today, unfortunately. But if you do come out and you're frustrated that it's cart path only, you can't get off the cart, we only do it just to give the best experience possible. We want to have the golf course lush and running firm and fast and playing the best that it can. So by actually keeping all 4 tires on the pavement there, we can do that.
That's right. They caught me. They caught the golf cart bandit one time. I was out there,
the golf cart spinning. If you're looking like that, you could be the golf cart bandit.
I know.
That's right.
I forgot to take my little beanie thing off when I walked in today, Scott, but it's all right. StonoFerryGolf.com is where you can book your tee times. Of course, you can check out the memberships there. As he just mentioned, they've grown at a massive rate, which is fantastic. They should be because it is just the most beautiful golf course we've got here in the Low Country. You can book tee times, all that stuff at StonoFerryGolf.com. Real quick, by the way, I want to make sure I get this in before we get to your video and then let you run, Scotty. Right now is the Waste Management Phoenix Open out there in beautiful Scottsdale. Probably a nice place to be this time of year.
Yeah.
Former Gamecock golfer Matt Neesmith is in the lead through 15. He's at 8 under par, ahead of
Wow, he's at 8.
Yeah, 8 under ahead of Shoffley.
Nice. I did see a stat about Shoffley. He has, I think, in the last 25 events, he has not finished outside the top 25, which is nuts. But I did see, I did not see that updated score. I saw that Matt Neesmith was 6 under through 11. 8 through 15 is that's golfing your ball right there. So good for him. It'd be nice to see him to break through with local ties.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And he's 5 shots ahead of what Tiger calls Brooksy. But I did that in my Spurrier voice. Yeah, Brooksy. All right, yeah. 300 through 14. All right, let's get it going there, Brooksy. You're going to go to the F troop. All right, we got all right. So we're going through a series of videos here. What do you have for us today? Back us up. What have we done? We've done grip and those. So take us from start to where we are now and trying to improve our golf game.
So yeah, exactly. When we had this idea to do some video or to do some tips and then have videos explaining those tips, I kind of just wanted to start at least with these first few with some very basic fundamentals because, like I said in the first video, having the keys to the ignition, your grip is the keys to the ignition. You can continue on that same path, grip, which we covered in the first video, stance, alignment, and posture, which we covered last week. This week, I'm going to work on the takeaway and having a solid and fluid takeaway. I would say all 3 of those things are part of the keys in the ignition. You have to have those down and have very solid fundamentals in order to have a successful and repeatable golf swing. If we don't, if one of those things breaks down early in the swing, we spend the rest of the swing having to compensate for those mistakes. So I think that's why it's very important. So it's just a little quick drill that you can do to have a solid takeaway in the backswing. Building a backswing is very important. And I'll also show some of the mistakes that I see, which this can help fix. And we can roll it and take it from there.
Roll tape.
You got it.
Here we go.
Hey, what's going on? It's Scott. We have talked recently about the importance of the grip, the importance of our alignment, stance, and posture. Now I want to start on the golf swing and the importance of our takeaway and backswing. We don't want to get stuck early on in the swing and have to then compensate the rest of the way. So a nice simple tip is to take a tee and to place it in the butt end of the club here. This is first going to serve as a great visual aid to keep the butt end of the club just left of the zipper, no matter what club we're hitting. From here, I want you to take the club to parallel height. Now, as you do this, I want the tee to point towards your left thigh the entire time. Notice that when I do this, it puts me in a great position, in the strike zone, so to speak. Point that tee towards the left thigh. Also notice that the right arm is looking down at the left. This is a really good position. This is not. I see this a lot on the lesson tee. People suck the club to the inside. They have to compensate the rest of the way and hit poor golf shots. Also notice that the tee is not pointed at my left thigh. This is also a bad position, okay? Arms are not stacked, tee not pointed towards the left thigh. Those are bad. This is good. So practice that. The backswing is just as important as the follow through. So practice it. If you need my help, give me a call. Love to help you out to build a great golf swing. Till I see you again, keep it in the short grass.
I love the finish to that. Keep it in the short grass. All right. Is this so? This obviously is a very common problem. I mean, do people how do people know when they? I mean, if they don't put a tee in the butt end of their club, how do they know when they're screwing this up?
Well, that's kind of the point of the drill. There is that if you put the tee in, it gives us a visual aid because it sticks out from the bottom of our grip, so we can actually see it, and we can have that checkpoint when we're hitting balls to make sure that as we take the club back to that parallel height, that first position, so to speak, that it's pointing at our thigh. A lot of times that position that I showed where the club sucks to the inside, that is actually very common. People take the club abruptly too far inside, and as a result, then the club goes over the top, or people cast the club. Those are terms that golfers might hear, and you then hit a big high slice, hit the ball off of the toe maybe, or overall inconsistent. So that is over 90% of the golfers usually jerk the club inside and then have to compensate by then swinging over the top and try and get back to the ball. So this first takeaway, fluid motion, is very important. I sometimes refer to it as the strike zone with students there. You know, if you imagine that you're in the batter's box and there's a catcher behind you and you want to hand that club to the catcher right there in the strike zone. You don't want to hand them a ball inside or outside. You want to hand it right down the middle. So that can be a good visual as well. It just kind of gets the swing off and running. And the backswing is just as important, because if we get in bad positions, we have to compensate to try and get into the right position. So it's very important to have everything in place and a nice, solid takeaway, fluid takeaway, which is what this drill will help. And then we can roll from there and hopefully strike one down the middle or up on the green close.
I like the catcher reference. That makes sense to me. I can picture myself doing that. Yeah. I
figured that. Yeah, that might. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes much more sense. StonoFerryGolf.com. That's where you can find, if you're confused, if you've watched these last 3 videos and you're out there chopping it all over the place, hey, calm down. Don't think about it. Just call Scott. Calm down. Call Scott. 843-763-1817. The number to the course, 763-1817. Or just head to StonoFerryGolf.com. You can get in touch with them easily. That way you can see the course. You can book a tee time. You can book some lessons. You can inquire about memberships and much, much more. On that note, we got to let you run, Scott, but have a blast Sunday. The Blitz, that's going to be the Super Bowl Blitz. That's going to be fantastic. We're certainly looking for forward to the Super Bowl as well. Quick pick. Who wins?
For the Super Bowl?
Yep.
Chiefs. Most definitely the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I'll say I don't think that, I don't think Tom Brady's luck is going to well, not luck, but Brady, phenomenal, greatest of all time. But I think the new kid on the block might be here to stay, and Pat Mahomes. So I think Chiefs are going to take care of business.
Got another Chiefs. Write it down.
Got it.
Wonderful stuff as always, Scott. Thank you so much, brother. We look forward to speaking with you next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Y'all have a great Super Bowl weekend.
There you go, Scott Glaze on Twitter at Scott Glaze, out there at Stono Ferry, StonoFerryGolf.com. Timeout in 2 minutes. We're back. Mike Morgan called the Gamecocks upset last night over the Gators. He'll tell you all about it when we return.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
1:35, final segment on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Great deals always with our friends out there. Mike Mazzell. Hello, Mike, and all the team at Stokes Volkswagen. I know they got a couple new hires, stokesvw.com. Mike Morgan in a quick moment, real quick, though, last night. Tough night in the top 5 in basketball. Woo, man. St. John's upsets third-ranked Villanova, 70-59 last night. By the way, it was the same date 3 years ago that they upset fourth-ranked Duke. And then 4 days after that, guess what? Upset top-ranked Villanova. Guess who they have coming up next after Villanova? Providence on the road. But they should be fine if they can beat Villanova, right? But it was a big win, certainly. For them. But that wasn't the upset that really caught everybody's eyes. It was the higher-ranked team that lost. But it was East Carolina beating Houston last night is what really had people talking. 82-73. The second loss of the year now for the Cougars. East Carolina had lost 35 in a row versus ranked teams going into last night's matchup in Greenville, North Carolina. The last win against a ranked team, December 30th, 2002, and that was against 13th ranked Marquette. They were 0-17 all time against top 5 teams, but no more. The Pirates ended both of those streaks last night, and they were able to take down the Cougs. So we'll see how far they fall. By the way, Missouri beat Kentucky last night. Kentucky is 5-11 and 4-5 in the SEC. They are nowhere near the NCAA tournament unless they win the SEC tournament, or SEC championship. And Coach Cal last night essentially called out one of his players to the press, which was interesting. The guy apparently has been not hurt for a while, but he has been playing, and he called him out about it. So there's some problems going on up there.
Yeah. And
Bama, with their win last night, is the first time in 65 years Alabama has started the SEC 10-0. That stat from AL.com's Matt Zennis.
65 years.
65 years since they've been 10-0 in the SEC.
Wow. Well, strange things, right? North Carolina and Duke will play as unranked opponents for the first time since 1960. That's happening this week. You've got Kentucky unranked. You've got Alabama playing better than it has in 65 years.
Yeah.
Lots of strange stuff.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Also strange in Gainesville last night. Gamecocks had been reeling. The Gators had been rolling. But last night they went to the O-Dome and stunned the 22nd ranked Mike White-led Florida basketball team 72-66. Mike Morgan and Debbie Antonelli had the call on the SEC network. And Mike Morgan's been kind enough to hop on with us here this Thursday afternoon to tell us what he saw. Good afternoon, my friend. What's up?
Guys, I'm doing well. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah. We got another car guy.
It's back to the car. The home studio is a few miles away. I had to get my pickleball on. This is what I've been reduced to. This is what I am now. I was once a fairly good athlete. Now I'm just trying to hang with the pickleball crew.
Well, you know what? Mike, whatever you do, we enjoy it, my friend. Your pickleball game, the calls, all the stuff, all your pictures that you tweet of your food and whatever beach you've landed on. You're just a well-rounded guy.
Well-rounded. I like that. That could be a compliment depending on how you look at it, but yeah, I'll take that.
Well, yeah, your well-rounded and my well-rounded are different.
Well, you're playing pickleball, so whatever rounded is flattening. So you're doing okay.
That's right.
Yeah, that is true. I just keep telling myself it's better than doing nothing.
Yep.
And it is a fun game. I'm sure a lot of the people in your audience have given it a shot. And I've never been a tennis player. I haven't played tennis in 10 years. So it gives you some of that. Never been a racquetball player, gives you some of that. And a lot of the baseball players are really good at it because it's still hand-eye.
Right.
And around here, we've got a lot of former athletes that are just looking for something to do, so they're playing it now. My favorite commercial going right now is there's a Copperfit commercial. We all know what Copperfit is, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's Brett Favre and Jerry Rice having a conversation as they're playing doubles in pickleball. And 2 months ago, I would have said, "What the hell are they doing? Why are they on a miniature tennis court playing with the wrong rackets?" And now I realize they're playing pickleball.
Right.
So if 2 Hall of Famers can do it, why can't I do it?
There you go. Why not me?
I tell you what, you mentioned racquetball. Let me throw it back old school here for Mike. Big Carolina baseball is right around the corner. Did you ever go down and hang out in the racquetball courts at the Sarge?
Yeah. That's typically early on where I would find Jim Toman working with catchers.
Yep. Oh,
because the racquetball courts were used as a backstop.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's how far behind Carolina was in facilities. You had assistant coaches using the racquetball courts to work out catchers. Obviously, they've come a long way since then with a beautiful ballpark in Founders. But that was about as far as I went. I'd go to chat with Toman. Hey, man, hey, Mike, come on over to the racquetball courts. And there he is working with the catchers.
That's right. What's going on, big guy?
Hey, big guy. Hey, I heard you had a good pizza last night. What pie did you get?
That's right.
Every road trip we went to, I never had to look at, of course, back then you didn't have Uber Eats and all that stuff, but I never had to ask the locals where the best pizza was. I'd go straight to Toman, and Toman would always be like, "Oh yeah, you got to try that Village place over there near the square in Oxford." He always had it.
Hey, he is
Razorback pizza, man. You can't go wrong with Razorback pizza.
Now I just want pizza.
Dude, there is nobody like JT, man. When he came to the college to coach with Chad, I went to lunch one day with Pat George, who pitched at the College of Charleston years ago, and Jim and Coach Holbrook downtown. And we sat down, Mike, and I'm not picking on Coach Tone. I'm not saying anything he doesn't say about himself, but I was about to start eating my meal and I looked across and his burger was gone. And I thought, man, and he, well, what's taking you so long, big guy?
Oh, yeah. Jim could eat now. Jim could eat. That 2000 team, we were in Fayetteville, and if you remember, that's where the team clinched.
Yeah.
The SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And, Jim was all about business. Now, that whole staff was. Jerry Myers barely said 2 words. He was kind of the calming influence. Ray was really rigid back then. He loosened up a little bit over time, especially when he had kids. But he was a bit of, pardon my French, he was a bit of a ball breaker. And Jim, as funny as he was, now he was, when you put him in between the lines, he was all about business. But when the team clinched the SEC, he's like, "Mike, man, I don't know about these players and these coaches. We got to celebrate." And I was like, "What do you have in mind?" He's like, "I don't know. We're in Fayetteville. Hey, you think of something." I'm not going any further there with the story. I'll just say I saw Jim Toman let his hair down a little bit.
Yeah, he didn't have much, so I don't know how far he let it down, but
yes, figuratively speaking.
Yeah. Well, I got to say hello to my old roommate Jay Brown here, who's I knew something. Mike, I came in, I walked in the studio today, I sat down, I forgot to take my beanie off. It was cold, and I got in my truck. I said, I'm gonna I didn't heat the truck up yet. And so I left and I just forgot. And then I came in, I put my glasses up here. I forgot my glasses were on too. And now Jay Brown's called me out. Whatever.
You look like you're doing the show from an igloo.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you're doing it from the pickleball courts. It all works out around here.
The Charleston igloo.
Professionalism at its best. All right, let's get to what we were actually going to talk about here. Was Carolina basketball. I'm sure people are thrilled with our Jim Toman stories. Mike, I want to, your impressions on last night's win. I had a couple off the top here at the top of the show. First of all, defensively, you had a lot of help side defense there. People communicated better. Offensively, the ball was moving. Seventh had his best game of the year. I mean, it was much more of a team win, much more of a Gamecock type flow in a Frank Martin system. And we hadn't really seen that. I don't know that anybody expected it with the way Florida was playing and the way South Carolina was playing, but you called it and you did a marvelous job as you always do. What were your impressions of last night's victory?
Well, for some reason, I did think Carolina was going to play well. The low point was clearly the Vanderbilt game, but I've seen this movie too many times where Frank's team has a really disappointing loss. Everybody piles on. Everybody thinks the team is done and they're not going to compete. And then all of a sudden they turn it around. Yeah. And look, I'm not going to tell you I thought they'd go and win that game. There was nothing that would lead you to believe that Florida, playing as well as anybody in the conference at home, was going to lose that game. But I did think it'd be competitive. And that's all we really wanted, was to have a game that would go down to the wire in the final 5 minutes. That's our goal for every game for obvious reasons. And then if Frank's teams keep it close in the final 5, I trust his coaching.
Yeah.
To put his team in a good position to win the game. That's never been the issue. The issue has been when the team just, for whatever reason, usually when we're talking about a South Carolina team that's struggling under Frank Martin, we're talking about a team that does a lot of things right defensively and rebounding, but they can't get out of their own way on offense. This year's team is the opposite. Right. This team can score. This team can score points on anybody. But for whatever reason, and Frank talked to us about it before the game, they were not connected on defense. That's the key word, connected. Talent doesn't make you great on defense. You've really got to – there has to be buy-in. And all your guys have to be there for one another. And I think for a while there, it didn't seem like that was it. You had a bunch of guys who looked like they were kind of doing their own thing. And in a year of COVID where you have interruptions and pauses, guys like Frank Martin, they can't kill them in practice like they ordinarily do. It's just a different setup. Not making excuses. I'm just saying that's the way it is. So when you add all that up, they weren't defending anybody. Well, once they played defense, you see Lawson having a career year. You see Bryant having a career year. You saw what Kusnard can be when we thought he would have a career year. And then Minaya, Levesque, these are great complementary parts. I'm probably missing somebody. So, and they all did their role last night. So everything just came together, and they played by far and away their best game of the year. And now you just want to see if they can continue to do that, finish up strong, and then, see where the chips lie. They've dug themselves such a hole, and it seems like we're talking about this a lot in February, where they're always behind the 8 ball, where they get this big win, and you get all excited, and you say, okay, now we could be talking about the postseason. And then you look at the metrics and you say, well, wait a minute now, the net's not enough and this is not enough. And how about that bad loss back in December? And that might be the case again this year, but at least you saw a team play with heart, play together, and play very well.
Yeah, their net ranking jumped 12 spots from 104 to 92, and they got a 3-game home stretch coming up. Alabama is a part of that. The opportunities are certainly there. Mike, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago, because I referenced your name at the top of this show alongside Debbie Antonelli and Derek Scott. We've spoken with all of you numerous times over the last few weeks, and in particular in the last couple of weeks, you've all said something very similar, and you just said it again, and you followed it up with exactly the way you've all three of you have said this. All three of you have paid attention to Carolina basketball as well as anybody, and it's a continuity issue out there on the floor with Frank's system. And nobody, you, Debbie, Derek, again, I'm mentioning all three of you because you've all said it. It wasn't an excuse, but in knowing Frank Martin and how he coaches his teams and knowing his system, it was a fact that they just they didn't practice. They didn't have any time. And there were things that just weren't coming together the way that they usually do for Frank's programs sooner than this, certainly. And now I know, look, you got another killer loss on it. You lost to Vanderbilt again. This happens every year. There's a bad loss or two that is just the thorn in their side. But at least maybe it's part of a stretch where they've been playing basketball, Mike, and now they've got this 3-game home stretch up ahead here with Bama coming to town in the middle of that, Mississippi State, Alabama, Ole Miss. Maybe all of that combined together will put them on some better footing to get it going at Colonial Life Arena.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, all 3 of those games are winnable at home.
Right.
They're going to be favored against State. They're going to be favored against Ole Miss, and they're good enough at home to beat Alabama. Now, you do that, you pull off that trifecta, and we're going to have a different conversation next time I'm on the JB and Goldwater show, right? If they don't do that, then it's going to be really hard to find a way into the NCAA tournament. And look, that's what the fans have grown to. Somebody is to the call. That's what the fans, like every other school, want. And Frank knows the criticism out there. He's a very bright guy. He knows people are going to say 1 NCAA tournament 9 years, and that's going to be written on the front page of his assessment. Obviously, the Final Four is on that same page, and that's the greatest accomplishment in Gamecock basketball history. So, where you weigh that, I have no idea. I just know that I thought at the beginning of this year, under normal circumstances, this could be a tournament team, and maybe that'll prove to be right in time. But there's been so many ups and downs and so many stoppages, and it really is hard to evaluate. Look, Carolina had a unique situation, but make no mistake about it. I mean, that team that just beat last night, they've been without the preseason player of the year in the conference for most of the year.
Yeah, right.
I'm supposed to have Arkansas on Saturday. They're without a game because Texas A&M has COVID. Tennessee had COVID issues early on.
Right.
We go up and down the list. This is a weird year, but the cream does rise to the top, and the top teams, when it's all said and done, are going to be in that NCAA tournament, and the other teams are unfortunately going to be watching at home, and that's going to be, for those fan bases, you're going to have that empty feeling. It's a very excluded feeling that you have when you're an SEC basketball fan and you're watching the league now put together. It seems like a minimum of a half a dozen bids every year, this year included, and you're not one of those 6. It's just, you feel like, okay, what are we doing wrong? And that's just the nature of the beast.
Mike Morgan, ESPN SEC Network 152 on a Thursday afternoon. In the game last night, I was laughing at you on the call because your reaction was the same as I think everybody's reaction at the end of the game when we all realized, well, now wait a second here, Florida only has 2 fouls.
Oh my goodness.
And because you took the words right out of my mouth, which there weren't really any words. It was like, I've never seen this before. Have you ever seen that? I've never seen that.
No, where a team literally has to foul 5 consecutive times to force another team at the free throw line. Now, I know what fans are going to say. Well, clearly then it was a poorly officiated game. I didn't really think so. I didn't think Florida came to play defensively. A lot of times fouls, Frank Martin's teams typically lead the league in fouls, but some of those are good fouls. Some of those are aggressive fouls. That means they're all in on defense. I didn't sense like Florida was all in defensively last night. They quite frankly, they were a little soft. Trey Mann, their point guard, said at the postgame press conference, we got punked by South Carolina. So, people will say 2 fouls. The referees are just missing a bunch of calls. I didn't think that was the case, but it was ridiculous to sit there and go, wait a minute now, they're going to have to foul 5 consecutive times. And I made the analogy, and I don't know if anybody caught this, but when you play like church league basketball, which I have, and when most of the teams out there will play what, a 2-3 zone. Nobody's out playing church league to play great defense, right?
Right.
So you're not fouling. Yeah, if a guy hits an open three, hits an open three. So and one of the leagues I play, you have to foul 7 times to get the other team in the bonus. So I've been in a situation where we're down 4 or 5 points late in the game and you want to foul, and the referee says that's only your second team foul. So we've had to do the same thing. Every inbound, foul, until we finally force them to hit free throws. That's the only other time I've seen something like that. Is in a rec league, church league type environment. I've never seen it in a big time college basketball game.
Well, and Debbie, and I heard your comments, yes, and Debbie complimented that well with, I think, an excellent point. If you're Florida there, be aggressive to the basketball.
Yes.
I mean, and I don't even know that they were as aggressive as they should have been. I want to ask you about Seventh Woods. You know, Frank's teams are much better when he's got somebody handling the point position. And I said to Darren earlier, Mike, I said, every game, at the end of the game, I look at one number in Seventh Woods' stat line: turnovers. That's it. That's the first one I go to. And then after that, I go down the list and look at everything else. I mean, obviously you watch the games, you kind of know what happened with him. He had 1 last night in 26 minutes. Everybody's looking at his 12 points, 6 of 10 shooting. That's fantastic. Obviously, if he didn't have 12, they would have lost the game. So obviously that's wonderful. But they also would have lost the game if he probably turned it over 4 or 5 times, and he didn't do it. What did you see out of him? What have you seen over the last couple of games with Seventh Woods? He appears to be playing much more aggressively.
For him, it's 100% confidence. And Frank has talked about that, you know, when he was at North Carolina, and quite frankly, he was in a little bit over his head. Whenever he did something wrong, he just got yanked. So missed shot, bench. Turnover, bench. Because North Carolina is sitting there with McDonald's All-Americans waiting to get back in the game. They don't have time for Seventh Woods to learn on the fly. You either get it or you don't, which is why Seventh Woods would have been better suited to go to South Carolina from day one. But so Frank talked about he doesn't want to beat him up confidence-wise. He doesn't want to bench him every time he does make a turnover, yell at him every time he does miss a shot. And so he's showing more patience in Seventh Woods, and that clearly has been the winning combination, is for Frank to give him a little bit extra rope to go ahead, and you're going to make some mistakes, but we're not going to kill you for it. That's what Seventh Woods needed. And last night, all 12 of those points, second half, that was the kind of player people thought he would be coming out of high school. But everybody's takes a different path. And, you know, Seventh Woods now has got confidence, and he's not feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. And he's not worried Frank's going to just blast him every time he makes a mistake. And he's not going to get yanked the way he did at Chapel Hill every time he makes a mistake. So that's the number one thing for Seventh Woods. You know, he doesn't need to be the guy. Okay. I know he was a stud in Hammond, and he had great dunk montages on YouTube. Nobody cares about that anymore. Can you help us win games? That's what it's all about. And Seventh Woods can. But he doesn't have to need to be the guy. You've got Lawson. You've got Kusnard. You've got Minaya. Just do what you did last night, and you could be a tremendous asset.
We might go a little bit over the 2 o'clock mark here, Mike, as long as that's not going to interrupt your next croquet or game or whatever you're going to play next.
Croquet. Oh, I like that. Can I pick up croquet games here? Where do I go?
I have a croquet set at my house, by the way. Maybe I should pull that out and teach the girls to whack those things around.
No,
the last thing I want is my
bad
daughter.
idea. Yeah.
Mike, last night at halftime, I thought I was right about this, and I went back and kind of looked at it again. And I saw Derek this morning actually tweeted about it, so I was right. Good for me. I can count. Carolina whipped Florida in the paint, 50-30. But the points in the paint, it was all even at halftime. Mm-hmm. And in the second half, they dominated in the paint. What changed?
Well, I didn't think Carolina played that poorly in the first half, to be honest with you. Obviously, they played better in the second, but I liked the way the Gamecocks came out from the opening tip on. I mean, I thought they played a good game overall. They played a great final 5 minutes of the game. And this goes back to, again, Florida only had 2 fouls in the second half for most of the way. It wasn't terrible officiating. Carolina had 50-something points in the paint because Florida showed no resistance. It was just not. I can only imagine. We didn't obviously interview Mike White after the game. We don't typically interview the losing coach after a game. But I guarantee you he went back in that locker room and he said, weak effort defensively. You guys, you didn't bring it. Against West Virginia on the road, they were monsters down low. There were no easy buckets, no easy layups. Against Carolina, I thought they let their guard down a little bit. I thought they were not the kind of defense we've seen much of the year from Mike White. So that's how you get a bunch of points in the paint. You give a bunch of credit to the Gamecocks, and you also see that Florida did not offer much in the way of resistance. And credit to Frank Martin's club. You see that. You keep attacking it. You don't settle for a bunch of threes. You've got guys on that lineup that are good taking the ball to the rim. You've got guys in that lineup who are good crashing, like Bryant, like Levesque, McCreary, I thought did good things last night. Those guys are good at crashing and getting offensive rebounds and stickbacks. All those count as points in the paint. You know, it's not like they're feeding the ball into the post and some great 5-man makes a move. They don't have that. But what they have is guys that can get to the rim on the bounce, and they got guys that can offensive rebound and score in the paint that way. And that's what they did the entire second half and much of the game.
Final question on this one, Mike. You mentioned this earlier as well, and Darren and I had talked about it at the top of the show. When Carolina is in a close basketball game, I always like their chances with Frank Martin on the sideline. I know when they were down in Baton Rouge earlier and lost 85-80, the next day we cut the mics on and we were talking about this game, and I made reference to that, Darren. I said, I think that there was something, we talked to Derek about this actually too. I think there's something to that, no offense to Bruce Shingle or anybody else on that sideline, but Frank Martin is really good. One of the best coaches in the country at managing the game down the stretch. If his guys have the lead or they're close to it, he seems to have a great feel for what's going on out there. He's able to dial up the right things. He's able to plug the right guys in, and they got to go out and execute, certainly, but he puts them in a position to win. You know, as you have watched everything unfold under Frank Martin at South Carolina, why do you think that is? Like, what is it about Frank Martin that when it's crunch time, it seems like he dials up a different level of coaching?
Because defense travels, and because when you know, offense is great to have, and you can win a ton of games with offense. There's no doubt about it. This whole notion that, you know, you have to hold teams into the 50s and win games in rock fights as opposed to up and down. That's a silly notion. I don't buy into that. But teams that do well in the postseason have traditionally been two things, and that this remains true today. Number one, they're teams that defend well. Number two, they're teams that can be successful in the half court. And Frank's teams typically do both those things. I think Frank's biggest strengths are twofold. Number one, he can take a 2-star and turn him into a 3, and he's done it several times, whether it's Silva. Oh, gosh, I mean, there's a long list of guys. I mean, Thornwell was not a 2-star, but clearly he was a much better player his junior and senior years than he was his freshman and sophomore years. You know, Mike Kotsar was a project. He turned him into an all-SEC caliber big man. Frank can develop players. Number two, Frank's a good tournament coach. It's not just the Final Four run. If you go back to K-State, an Elite Eight, 2 Sweet 16s, when Frank's teams get into the tournament, they do well. So those are the two major bouquets I would throw at Frank Martin. The problem is, if you don't get to the tournament, none of that matters.
Right.
And if you don't have – sometimes even if you develop a 2-star into a 3-star, it's just not good enough if you're going up against 4 and 5 stars. So that is the dichotomy that is Gamecock basketball, right? I mean, you could have made the same points under Dave Odom. There were a lot of players. Torrance Kinsey. Nobody wanted Torrance Kinsey. When he left Carolina, he was in the NBA. There's a lot of stories like that under Dave Odom. I think Dave Odom was a pretty good tournament coach. Problem is he only got to one of them. He won 2 NITs, those tournaments. He had some runs in the SEC tournament. I remember going to the championship game, and it was within one Trey Kelly shot of beating the eventual national champions, the Florida Gators, to win the SEC tournament. That would have been huge. Right. And that team would have won. I'm convinced that team would have won multiple games in the NCAA tournament. So the problem for Gamecock basketball has not been not having coaches that know X's and O's. You go back to Eddie Fogler, same thing. With the exception of Darren Horn, that's a whole other case study. But you look at the previous coaches at Carolina, and there's a lot of they develop players, and when they get into the tournament, typically they have the ability to make runs. I know what people are saying right now. Well, Mike, Eddie Fogler lost as a 2 and a 3 seed. I got it. That will always be a painful memory for every Gamecock fan out there. But Eddie Fogler, when he's at Vanderbilt, took him to the Sweet 16. That's how he got the Gamecock job. So you can't convince me Eddie Fogler didn't know how to coach the tournament. He just had 2 tough losses. But anyway, that I went off on off the rails there. But specifically with Frank, I mean, that's what he develops players. And I'm convinced if they got back to another tournament, Frank Martin would lead them to some wins. But you got to get there first. And unfortunately, in 9 years, there's only been one. Before that, in 4 years of Darren, there was none. In 7-8 years of Odom, there was one. And that is the angst of a Gamecock basketball fan. It's just a lot of close but no cigars, if you will.
Well, as you mentioned a little while ago, there's a stretch run that started last night for South Carolina, and I mentioned this yesterday, Mike. You can look at it as a glass half empty or a glass half full, and if you choose to look at it glass half full, ample opportunity to get right back in the conversation. These next 3 at home, Mississippi State, 84th in the net rankings. That's not hot. That's not low enough, but it's better than South Carolina. And then the big one right there, Alabama. They're a top 10 net ranking team, obviously the best team in the SEC. You got Ole Miss, who's 69th right now. Then you got to go to Tennessee, who took a hard loss earlier this week, but they're still going to be a quad 1 win. I mean, there are great opportunities. Missouri after that to get it rolling along. You mentioned defense. They're going to need it with Alabama coming up in Tennessee and Missouri and those type teams. We'll see if it translates over the next.
Look, this is the ultimate, hypothetical. If they defend the way they did last night, they're going to win a lot of those games. If they don't, they're going to be back where the win one, lose one, win one, lose one. And right now they just can't afford to do that if you want any chance at the NCAA tournament. I think for that team, it's less about the metrics. And if you recall last year before the loss to Vanderbilt, Carolina didn't have the best net in the world, but their path was going to be, look at our conference record.
Right.
Look at our conference record. And the committee, we're dealing with human beings, not computers. The committee, if you finish in the top 4 of the SEC standings, well, then they'll overlook perhaps a not so great net ranking and all that other nonsense. And they'll say bottom line is they were one of the best teams within their conference. To me, that's South Carolina's path. They didn't have a great out of conference win. The metrics are not going to be tremendously good. You just have to go out and win more SEC games than most teams do, and then you'll be in the discussion. Otherwise, you're looking at possibly the NIT, and I'm not even sure if we're going to have an NIT this year.
That's a good point.
And let me remind everybody in the SEC has at least 3 losses except Alabama. Carolina's got 4. They're in the same boat as a lot of teams right now, like Arkansas, Florida, LSU, and Tennessee. On that note, Mike, we'll let you get back to it, man. Thank you for hopping in and joining us this afternoon. Go do whatever you're planning to do. I guess
I'm going to go eat lunch is what I'm going to do.
Me too. I guess we won't be seeing you call a game on Saturday then with the postponement there.
No, I'm actually going to have a Saturday off, which is a little weird for me, but I know my girlfriend will appreciate that. So I'm going to watch some games and do some stuff. Maybe do a little shopping. Who knows? Maybe a little Bed Bath & Beyond. I'm going to have the time.
Yeah. Oh, dynamite. Dropping money.
Saturday.
Yeah, wonderful stuff.
Thank you for actually catching that reference.
Yeah. No, come on, man. We're the movie kings, or at least
No,
I am.
I am not, but I got that
I'm the
one.
movie quote king. I love it. Great stuff. I followed that up. Dynamite drop in money. You know where that one goes?
Yes. Oh, of course. Euchre, Major League. Come on.
That's right.
That broadcasting school is really doing you well.
That's right. That's right. Mike, thank you so much. Really looking forward to speaking with you again soon. Great call last night. I know we say it, and
Thank
people
you.
are probably tired of hearing it, but you and Debbie really are just an amazing team.
I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun working with her. You know, we did a women's game in Columbia 12 years ago. That's the extent of how well we knew each other. But when we first started talking, she told me when I saw your name on the grid with me, you know, I got excited and I said, well, I mean, that coming from her, she's been doing this longer than I have. She's well respected in all circles, and to get a compliment like that from her before our first game together, it meant a lot to me. We've had a lot of fun working together. It's everything is more difficult when you're not together in person, which we normally aren't. But other than that, it's gone about as smooth as I could ask. She's been a terrific partner, so I've had a lot of fun with her.
I know there's been some challenges calling the games from home, but y'all have really held it together. It's been wonderful to listen to.
Thank you.
Mike, have a wonderful week, brother. Thanks again.
Okay, guys. You got it. Be good.
There you go. Mike Morgan, of course, that segment right there brought to you by Stuart Wingo. And if you probably sat there and looked at his phone number and his name on the screen the entire time. But make sure that you check him out for your next mortgage.
There you go. Lowest mortgage rates
in the state, man.
Anywhere.
319-309-1777 is that phone number. By the way, it is World Cancer Day.
All right.
World Cancer Day, a very special day to many people. That is a terrible disease that affects too many people. Thanks to Mike. Thanks to Scott Glaze, Cory McCartney, and Skylar Meade for joining us here on this Thursday afternoon. I will not wear the beanie tomorrow.
Well, you can make it a thing, though. You can just.
I could.
Yeah.
That could be my look.
Yep.
Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. We are back tomorrow at noon. We got another big Friday. Can't wait to get into some of this prop bet stuff. That's going to be fun.
Yes, it will.
Thanks to Darren, as always, as well. Thanks for staying overtime with us as well. Have a thirsty Thursday afternoon. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, back tomorrow at noon.